Hi, amazing parents. Today, I am going to be talking with Austin Salyer, and I am amazed at what he's gone through and how far he's come in his life. We're talking about the topic of peer recovery specialists and how important they can be in the journey for our child to decide to engage in treatment and as a partner for them throughout their recovery. Austin knows this firsthand because before he connected with peer recovery specialists himself, he'd been in treatment for alcohol and drug addiction over 5 times. He'd been unemployed, homeless, burned every bridge in his life, and found previous treatment programs didn't bring him the community and the connection that was going to end up showing him a path out. So he knows firsthand what peer recovery specialists can do for our children. He is one now. He's in turn is giving back at his program that he's the director of admissions at Discovery Place. So with that, let's just jump in and talk to Austin and hear why he thinks this is such a powerful part of the care and support network for our children. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm real excited to be here. Peer-to-peer recovery is something that I'm passionate about purely by the fact because that's all I know. For me, peer-to-peer is one person who has some experience with a certain topic, passing along what they know to somebody who's new. I've been through treatment quite a few times, trying to get sober, trying to figure out this whole recovery thing, this whole sobriety thing, was it interesting? Is it going to be beneficial? Is it even possible? Am I going to actually enjoy it, or am I being tricked? I had so many different questions, and something that was vitally important for me was to be surrounded by people that had walked in my shoes, that had been there and done that and bought the t-shirt and had some legitimate experience to give back to me. This idea that I think probably most of us show up with when it comes to treatment, that I'm alone and that, I'm the only person in the world that struggles like I do, or I'm the only human being that feels the way I do, to have somebody sit across the desk from me and be like, no, man, like me too. This is how I got out of it. Like that's the even more important part is I get it, but here's the answer that I discovered. This is the thing that worked for me. Immediately my interest was piqued. I wanted to be a part of whatever that was. I still don't even have a word for it.
I heard you talk about passing along experience to somebody new. I think that is so powerful because there's no one way to find your path. But if we can be, if our loved one can be surrounded by people who've figured out their own paths and are willing to share that experience, it gives, we have an opportunity to learn and say, well, hey, this probably would work for me. I'm going to give this a try. And this person can help me figure out how to make it work.
Right.
And we do the same thing with the parents in the parent inner circle. They're surrounded by people who have faced the same challenges within their families, and they've figured out how to navigate it. And so
Right.
we learn from each other. And that model that's why that model resonates so powerfully for me. I wanted to ask you follow up on that and ask you about the peer support specialists and the role they can play in assisting someone to get into recovery from addiction or mental health. And
Right.
Can you share ways that they helped you or ways in which they would help someone engage and remain in recovery?
At the core of what a peer recovery specialist does, and I guess the tactic or the thing that is trained in them or found in them and used, is the innate ability to connect with another person. I think is vitally important and beyond necessary to be in a role as a peer recovery specialist. To be in that role, there comes a lot of responsibility. The peer recovery specialist, their job in a nutshell, in my opinion, is to make relationship with the person that is seeking help, to introduce the person that's seeking help to the answers that they found. They carry a message, and their job is to carry that message, to the people that need to hear it.
Finding somebody that my child or my loved one can connect with is really important. Having that person being able to build the trust,
right,
and maintain the trust of the relationship with the individual is really
right.
important. And I know it's an important part of the training that peer recovery specialists go through. Do you hear any kind of common concerns for those individuals? And how do you try to connect with somebody who says either I'm afraid I don't know what treatment's all about, or I've been to treatment and I'm really not convinced I don't know how this is going to help me.
To your first question, the word that comes to my mind is community. In my own experience and what I've seen working in this industry for the last 5 years is alcoholics and drug addicts are generally pretty self-reliant. Want to do this on my own. I don't need anybody. I'll figure it out. I can discover the answer. We have a multitude of different ideas and plans and all kinds of things that we will present to our loved ones that this is what I'm going to do differently, or this is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to move here. I'm going to go to this job, start a different relationship, all kinds of different things. And I think we have this inability to allow other human beings to give us direction, to be open to the idea that maybe, just maybe, we're wrong about a lot of things. When I see people come in and out of treatment, and it's just kind of the same thing over and over again, I think there is a common thread. And, it was my experience as well, is that I never really got meshed into a community of people that were attempting to do the same thing that I was doing. I get the same result over and over again. I end up getting high and drunk, or back in jail, or back in another treatment center, or homeless, and all kinds of different consequences. That is the result of me living that way. I've proven that time and time again. And so for me, the most important thing has got to be community. And the common thread that I see that people, for those that are in and out of treatment, is they never got attached to that community.
That's really interesting, because I know many programs, they all recommend attending AA meetings, some kind of a 12-step meeting. And they talk about the importance of making sure you attend everything. And I think that's, it seems to me that what you're saying is what they're trying to express is that it's building the connection, where you've got to do 90 meetings in 90 days, or in the hopes that that will result in you forming the connection.
I'm not just going to wake up one day and know how to work the 12-step program. I need somebody who has, to show me the way. What it's doing is it's breaking these walls down that I've built up over my life. I've isolated myself from pretty much every human being by the time I show up to treatment. And so pushing these guys and pushing these ladies to go find connection in an AA meeting, that's the thing that I've seen time and time again. It works. It really, truly does.
As parents, we struggle all the time with trying to get through to our child who's probably got that mindset of, oh, I know what's best. I don't want help from anybody. In thinking about that situation, when would you recommend a parent explore finding a peer recovery specialist for their child?
So the first word that comes to my mind is friendship. I had mentioned previously, addiction. Typically, just about every human being I've ever met that struggles with addiction that I've come in contact with, by the end of it is alone. In some regard, they are alone. Bridges around them have been burned. And so, what I think the peer recovery specialist's job is to help this person identify with somebody maybe for the first time ever. There's like this identification, there's this realization, there's this relationship piece that, as addicts and alcoholics, when we show up to treatment, we haven't experienced something like that, maybe in a long time, or maybe even ever. It's a domino effect. One person does this, he says, hey, do this. This is what worked for me. That person does that, and it works for them. And they look back and they're like, well, I can tell this person that's also struggling to do this, and so on and so forth. As a recovery specialist or peer recovery specialist, there's multiple roles, but I think the goal at the end of the day is to share experience, strength, and hope with the guy that is suffering.
I've learned that therapy is a part of what we want to surround our kids with, to help them move forward. And so can you just, from your perspective, am I right in thinking that? And how does a peer recovery specialist and a therapist kind of work together to surround our children?
I'm not a trained psychiatrist. I've never been to college. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, and I'm not going to act like one. There are things that a therapist can do for a human that I could never do. But when it comes specifically to addiction, I have the unique ability to help somebody discover recovery more so than somebody who has never experienced addiction. It's the math is just that simple. And so I think that both things can coexist in the same person's journey. I think both things play a valuable role in helping the person maybe discover and work on some of these traumatic things that they may have experienced. Stuff again that I'm not qualified to talk about. I may have some experience with it just purely by my own story and journey when it comes to struggling with their addiction. The sordid places they found themselves in, the lines they crossed that they never said they would have crossed. The promises that they broke and the families that they hurt, and all those things that we addicts tend to do. Man, that's the stuff I can relate to, and that's the stuff that I have experience on, and that's the area that I can help somebody in. So there's multiple. There used to be a saying. I think it takes a village to raise a child. It's very similar in recovery. It takes a village of humans from different walks of life to help somebody recover.
As a parent, I'm trying to figure out how to create or in a community
Mm-hmm.
that my child can be connected to, whatever age they are.
Right.
Whether they're teenager, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s,
Mm-hmm.
A community that's helping them to walk in a common direction.
Right.
Even though their individual path will be different.
So Discovery Place is we're a 12-step immersion retreat for men that are seeking to be in recovery in Burns, Tennessee. And you've already said it. Everybody here on staff is what you would consider a peer recovery specialist. Myself, I'm not technically. We call those people in those roles. We call them guides here. I was a guide for a very long time, and I've moved into a few different positions here now. But everybody here on staff is not only in recovery but also an alumni of the program. And that's huge. Not only can we relate to people that are coming in here just purely on the fact that we're all in recovery and we've been there and done that, but I know what it's like to be a guest at Discovery Place on any given Tuesday. I know what it's like to be a guest here on the weekends when things are a little bit slower. Discovery Place is built on this idea that there is no better way to help another alcoholic than to be one. Again, the math adds up. And so I get real passionate about talking about this place in particular. It saved my life. And I've been here for 5 years, surrounded by alcoholics and drug addicts trying to get better. And I've seen a lot of victories.
Thank you very much. Well, Austin, I need to wrap this up, but this has been so interesting. And I have probably got, 30 more questions that I could ask you about your recovery role and how it could help my children. So we may have to do another session.
Please, love to.
But again, you have definitely lived the experience. It's an experience that none of us parents want for our children. But you have lived it, you have found a way through it, and you're giving back, and that is so powerful. And you're sharing your knowledge with families, which is amazing, so that we can have this in our toolbox to help our kids. So Austin Salyer, thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
This has been great. Thank you.